Hi there, fully online people. How are you? How are you? Are you good? On the last day of February, can you believe we start up March tomorrow, the month of March, which brings us our spring break, usual blizzards, not as if we don't have one of those coming tomorrow night. And it just felt so good to get up to Staples Motley today and move around a little bit. I've kind of been home teaching online with my big camera instead of being in my classroom, and I want to get reunited with my life tomorrow in a real life way. But this is real life too, right? We're all doing our best. I want to talk with you about the same poet that I put before my students yesterday with a live Zoom class, and up in Staples today. And that guy's name is Gregory Orr. Gregory Orr is an American poet, recently retired after decades of teaching English at the University of Virginia, directed the creative writing program he started up there. And he's written a mess of books. And one of them has a title that some English majors would understand. One of them is called Poetry as Survival. This is a super important book to me. One of the most important books I own because it's taught me so much. It's not a book of poetry. It's kind of a poetics slash long, beautiful rumination on surviving. And why would he call the book Poetry Survival? Because poetry enabled Gregory Orr to survive. Specifically, what happened to him when he was a young man. When he was 12 years old, he accidentally shot his brother while deer hunting. He was just a kid, and they were running down a hill to check out a deer that their dad had shot. And it's not really a good idea to run with high-powered long guns, and imagine that, right? How could you live with that every day of your life? Wake up to that fact every day. I shot my brother. I shot my brother. It evokes Cain and Abel, and I've been saying the truth, which is that he credits his survival to a high school English teacher who, when he was 16 years old, introduced him to lyric poetry, and that saved him. And he's got a very important book out too, and he's rewriting it apparently. He's got a book called Concerning the Book That Is the Body of the Beloved. And apparently he's rewritten it, and it's the size of a Bible right now, and I'll have to get my hands on that eventually. So here's the thing. What I wanted to do was share with you, this is like a preview for something that you'll see maybe 20 minutes from now. I wanted to show you the very same thing that I put up for my other students. But I don't think I know how to download a Vimeo. When I put video in the spool here, in the little story, it's a YouTube video every time. Maybe that's something I better conquer. And let me show you what you'll see about 20 minutes from now at the end of this video. Gregory Orr got tremendously interested in the points of intersection between music and poetry, as if they're not the same thing. And before the world changed, he teamed up and collaborated with a wonderful trio of musicians called the Parkington Sisters. Sometimes when poetry gets mingled with music, it doesn't go, it can end badly. It doesn't go very well sometimes. I don't think that's true here. And maybe I'll put up the link of the Ideo video that I want to show you of it at the Dodge Poetry Festival in our announcements feed. The best I can do here is to offer a video that was made obviously during the pandemic. And there's a sadness to it, but there's an importance to it to me. I was part of that. I was an arts provider and an artist who hit those days and just felt so deprived. No venues, no places to play or read poetry or host events or concerts or anything for months and months and months when we were locked up in our houses and wearing masks outside, which apparently they now have decided are completely useless. New York Times just came out with the real truth about that. And you can tell that Greg Orr is in his house, and the Parkington Sisters are in theirs. And I'll just give it about 3 minutes. Give you 3 minutes of it. And the reason why it's going to be loaded at the end is because it's a full video, and it's going to take me 1 hour and 15 minutes to download it, even though I got a high-speed connection here. Then I got to put it in the storyline and just crunch down so there's about 3 minutes of it for you. And if you don't like poetry, you can cut it then. That's fine. All right, 4 minutes in. You're going to have about a week and a half to produce a persuasive paper. And persuasive papers are not that complicated. You're going to make a claim, and you're going to back it up as best you can, balancing the rhetorical appeals that we've already talked about, ethos, pathos, and logos. 7, 8, 900 words would be good. 500 again would be a little skinny. Over 1,000, unnecessary. Also unnecessary is doing any research for this. Argue from the heart. And I'll talk about possible topics later. I've given you a mode. You're going to have to choose them. But let's quickly review something. When the Greeks wanted to, the Greeks were interested in arguing in the pistis. Remember that word? Pistis or pisteus. Let's just use our English word, proof. They want proof. And you're going to make a claim and you're going to back it up as best you can. And you're also going to try to avoid making ungrounded claims. As I was just saying, an hour north, an hour and 15 minutes north in Staples earlier this afternoon, about 2:15, all my life I've seen ungrounded claims. And students make them, and that's among the last things I would complain about. And I've got a couple of really old examples of persuasive papers that were founded on completely ungrounded claims, no facts. And the story feels a little tired to me because I've repeated it many times, but I think it strikes me because the papers that, the pile of papers that spit this up, they were back to back. So I remember picking up a paper and the paper said, you know, America's the drunkest country in the world. We drink way too much in the United States. I'm sure that's true, and I'm not saying that as the angel of sobriety, but wow, if you're going to make a claim like that, you've got to have some evidence. You've got to have the proof. And there's always Google, right? Or ChatGPT, which I'm getting tired of and bored of and scared of at the same time. So that day I Googled, what is the drunkest country in the world? The United States wasn't even close. Many countries were ahead of us, including Finland, including Russia. The winner that year was Luxembourg, if you can believe that or not. That's a tiny country where they're, that is apparently loaded. Very next paper said, United States, America's the fattest country in the world. And the student wanted to go on and argue reasonable things. We've got to watch it with processed food. We've got to watch it with sugar. We have to watch it with fast food. But when I Googled, okay, well, what is the fattest country in the world? Again, we weren't even close. The answer that year was America Samoa. And I told this story once with a Samoan football player in the room at CLC. He didn't make it to Halloween. So you're going to make a claim and you're going to do your very best to back it up. And you're going to be working at trying to achieve what's called a pistis or a pisteus. We've already talked about how the Greeks loved it where somebody could say, wow, you just proved it. The argument's over. It's over. Let's go talk about something else. The Greeks were so interested in this that Aristotle invented a little machine that would kick out proofs. And nobody in my class up in Staples had heard of it, although I asked ahead of time, how many of you have done geometry? Because that's usually where you encounter the idea of proofs, which I wouldn't understand because I never made it to geometry. I barely made it out of elementary algebra back in the 70s. I'm going to talk about this and then I'm going to brush it aside because it's important to know about, but it's not important to know about in terms of application. What you want to do is take stuff you learn in a class and do something with this, but you deserve the understanding of it anyway. Aristotle invented on his own something called the syllogism. The syllogism is an ancient thing, and that is a 3-step chain of reasoning that leads to a proof. It always has a major premise, a minor premise, and then a conclusion. And today I use something straight out of Aristotle, although instead of putting Socrates in the example, I put this wonderful young man, a gentle, affable young man in my Staples class with a mythological name. I just did this a little while ago. I said, okay, here we go. Major premise. All men are mortal. Again, right out of Aristotle. Premise A, all men are mortal. Premise B, Odin is mortal. And then I said, ergo, what's the conclusion? What kicks out of that? And they hesitated a little bit, and then this woman off to the right of me, she said, Odin's going to die. And that was news to Odin, by the way. His eyebrows went up. He got a little bit surprised. And we laughed a little bit, and I said, yep, Odin, someday, some distant day, you are going to die. Bitter and mediocre and alone. So just deal with that fact right now. Then I changed the story and I said, don't worry, you're going to die in your sleep, surrounded by people who love you, and you're going to fly hither, straight to heaven. So don't worry about it. Okay. Well, I had the word written on the board, syllogism written on the board, and then I put that international circle around it with the line that says maybe don't, symbol that says maybe don't. Because guess what? The syllogism is fun to understand, but in prose it is useless. It's clunky. Who's going to fit a syllogism into an argument? Don't worry about it. We don't need the syllogism really any more than just sort of historically understanding it. What you do need to understand, actually, you must understand this. You must understand what I sometimes call the cousin of the syllogism or the little brother of the syllogism, and that is an endlessly powerful thing called the enthymeme. Fancy word, but learn it, remember it. Unlike the syllogism, which is a three-step chain of reasoning, and I'm no logician, enthymemes are two-step chains of reasoning that lead to a proof. This is not complicated. They often have words like because in them. Because of this, you should think this. Due to this, you should act in this way. Well, considering this, you should believe in this value or idea or concept. You have got to be able to control enthymemes. If you can't, if you have no interest in that, you might as well check into your parents' basement right now and get Netflix. Okay, because you're never going to get anywhere as anyone making arguments. You're never going to get anywhere in the world because it just you have to be able to do this. The thing is, when you're young people don't understand causal reasoning. Young people don't understand cause-effect, which is huge in argumentation. In real life or in our rhetorical lives, I'm not putting you down. I'm just saying young people don't get it. In your real world, in your real life, we are all, me too, because I'm kind of a kid at heart. I too am impulsive. I too sometimes don't think, if I do X, Y will occur. And in real life, and when we are arguing or persuading, cause-effect reasoning is absolutely everything. I used enthymemes to get into St. John's University a long time ago. I used cause-effect constructions to somehow persuade my wife to marry me. Every single time I write a grant, I'm stringing together a series of enthymemes to create one big, great enthymeme, great big enthymeme. I'm saying to the Five Wings Arts Council or the state of Minnesota, Minnesota State Arts Board, you should give me these funds because I will do this, because I will do this, and because this and that, and all kinds of other things will happen. You have to make it clear, very clear. And you can take this pretty far if you want to be creative and imaginative about it. I have a tremendous interest in enthymemes. I also have an interest in enthymemes that are used by other people, trying to persuade me to do something, think something, feel something. And to take it a little bit further, I have an interest in, for instance, just to talk a little bit more about it, invisible enthymemes, where you can induce persuasion, perhaps in a class with someone you know, without even saying anything, just giving a little bit of a look, or maybe saying something obliquely referring to something else, and it feels like an enthymeme, even though you didn't really create one on the spot. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I love the idea of invisible enthymemes, and because I'm a Christian, I'm not secretive about it. I want to be an enthymeme. I want my life to be an enthymeme because I want to be saved. I want to be saved. I want to be saved. And I hope it's all true. I hope there comes a time where my enthymeme, the enthymeme of my life, let me into heaven because I did this and this and this and this and this and only a little bit of bad stuff. That's I think about it cosmically, supernaturally, as well as in argumentation. Super important to know. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Thank you for not fist bumping.
Her eye and my eye, her gazing creates me. His voice in my ear, I'm seized by hearing. How because of the beloved I come into being. Under her touch, all of me shudders. Voice of the beloved, searching me out, seeking me, speaking me, speaking herself first, speaking his own being in order to awaken mine. Even before speech revealed your secret, there was looking.
And even before song that gave you away, there was gazing.
The beloved felt your eyes upon her.
He dimly understood why you looked at him that way.
Speech of the eyes, the stare and the glimpse.
The glance that lingers. Voice of the beloved searching me out, seeking me, speaking.